Good afternoon, sports fans. 4 p.m. on the East Coast, 1 on the West Coast, and to whatever time it is around the world, wherever you might be tuning in. Thank you very much for joining us on another edition of And That's the Game. I'm Matt Gillis as we come on air each and every day, breaking the news stories that are the biggest news in sports. And of course, the one that broke actually last night to an extent that has then continued on through the course of this morning is that of the National Women's Soccer League decision to move the Utah Royals back to Kansas City. The story behind this is the fact that the origination of this team was FC Kansas City when the league itself began years ago. That team, 3 years ago, was sold to Dell Loy Hansen, the owner of the Utah MLS team known as Real Salt Lake. The team began to play its games at Rio Tinto Stadium. They trained at the same complex where the Real Salt Lake team trains, where the Real Salt Lake Monarchs, which is the USL team of Real Salt Lake, plays and trains, and began to develop into what looked to be a long-running time in Utah, and that was going to establish sort of a template and a brand of how NWSL teams were going to work and were going to be treated going on forward. It perpetrated things like Sky Blue FC moving to Red Bull Arena and into the New York Red Bulls training facilities. And it changed a lot of the dynamics in the league as to how players were going to be treated. The NWSL Challenge Cup was held in Harriman, Utah at the Real Salt Lake Academy programming in that stadium mentioned, Zions Bank Stadium, where the Real Salt Lake Monarchs play all their USL games. It was deemed a huge success. It was deemed a crowning jewel moment for the National Women's Soccer League. And then shortly after that, all seemed to break apart. Comments came out from both Dell Loy Hansen and Chief Business Officer of Utah Soccer Holdings, LLC, the umbrella company of all the teams, including the academy and its facilities and stadiums. Some very misogynistic comments about players, about who should be marketed and shouldn't be marketed because of their looks, not their playing ability on the field. As that all continued to break down and break apart, it became clearly apparent that we were entering in Utah what we saw being a situation of Donald Sterling in the NBA with the LA Clippers, Jerry Richardson in Carolina with the Carolina Panthers, Daniel Snyder in Washington with the Washington football team. It was an untenable situation that from a marketing perspective, from a brand management perspective, from just a pure social perspective of respect, this team was no longer going to be able to be in Utah. It continued on to be that it wasn't just about the Utah Royals. It was comments made about people who worked in the Utah Soccer Holdings office, who worked on the Real Salt Lake side of things. This became clear that there was absolutely zero possibility that there was going to be a tenable situation in Utah for soccer, period. Now, while the MLS hasn't decided exactly what's going to happen with Real Salt Lake, Rio Tinto Stadium, the Real Salt Lake Academy, the Real Salt Lake Monarchs USL team, and Zions Bank Stadium, one thing is clear. There will not be National Women's Soccer League action in Utah next season. The Utah Royals, all of the players, all of its assets, its draft picks, its loan contracts, etc., have been sold to Kansas City, to a group that is helmed by Palmer Capital CIO Angie Long, and as we found out this morning, Brittany Matthews, a former Texas Tyler soccer player who is now a kinesiologist and fitness guru, and her fiance happens to be Super Bowl quarterback Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Just saying, he's there, you know. It's kind of like Kealia Watt, who happens to be a star player in the NWSL, whose husband just happens to be Texans linebacker J.J. Watt. No big deal. They're just over there. The focus more is on the fact that we now also have a second franchise in a national women's professional league owned by a majority women's group. Yes, Angel City FC, who comes on the stage in 2022, sort of broke the mold as being the first one. So we'll give them the moniker of "you were first," even though whatever the Kansas City team gets named, whether they take back the old FC Kansas City name or whether they come up with something new, becomes yet another team. And yes, they will play before Angel City FC plays, as they will assume the Utah Royals' position in the league. And since they have all of the players there, they will be able to go ahead right away and play. Whereas Angel City FC will need an expansion draft and free agency contracts and a collegiate draft or entry draft to be able to put their team together. But this is, again, a breaking moment in sports. Finally, in 2020, in the midst of all of the things that are crazy, we have seen some molds broken. We have two teams in a women's professional league that are owned by a majority of women. We have a woman who is a general manager of a Major League Baseball team in Kim Ng, who got named as the GM of the Miami Marlins a few weeks ago. 2020 has been a bizarre year, a year that none of us ever expected to be in. And yet, 10 months into what is a global pandemic that has seen 14 plus million cases in the United States and over 200,000 deaths, we can take some semblance of positivity that we are, as a society, still moving forward despite our setbacks. That occurred a couple of months ago when Angel City FC was announced and who its ownership group was. It moved forward again when Kim Ng was announced as the GM of the Miami Marlins. And it's now moved forward one more time as the new National Women's Soccer League team in Kansas City is owned by a majority of women. And that's the game for this December 7th, 2020. Thank you all so much for inviting us into your homes during these trying times. Thank you so much for all who tune into all of our shows on the SFBN Rhode Island Network and who visit our sfbnri.com site each and every day. If you want to check out our shows, whether it be And That's the Game or my other show, Sports World Weekly, go to sfbnri.com/And That's the Game or sfbnri.com/sportsworldweekly. And of course, you can check out all of the articles that we post as well too. Just go to sfbnri.com/articles or pick your favorite one from the box up on the top of our site. I will see you all in the Ocean State on Wednesday. So until then, enjoy the day, enjoy the evening, enjoy your Tuesday, and I will see you all back here 4 p.m. Wednesday for another edition of And That's the Game. Until then, take care. Good night.